Alan, let's just dive right into it. Welcome, and please introduce yourself.
Sean, thank you. I'm Alan Chaffee, CEO of a company called Turning Point Strategic Advisors out of Seattle, Washington, although our clients are nationwide. We are consultants and advisors to the Office of the CFO. And we help companies improve cash flow, profitability through financial planning, financial reporting, and strategic planning.
That's awesome. And just to give people an idea, what kind of size of companies do you work with?
Our clients run from 10 million in revenue all the way to 200 million. Really, it's where the office of CFO, sometimes there's a CFO in there and we're partnering with them and we're working on strategic planning, improving reporting, banking relationships, raising capital, M&A advisory, or there is a CFO, they've got a bookkeeper or controller, and they need some elements of the expertise that a CFO can bring you, and we're filling that in.
That's great. And I know you've been doing this for a while. You've got a pretty good depth of expertise here. How big is Turning Point?
We've got 42 consultants today.
Nice.
And we're hiring as fast as we can find great people.
That's always the hardest part, right? And
yes,
actually,
sure.
I think that we can just dive right on in, but that touches on a topic that we really wanted to talk about today, and that's hiring great people. One of your things that you talked about was, you grow through letting good people do good work, right? And
Right.
So talk a little bit about that philosophy, and then let's also talk about how you find great people and how you vet that and actually accomplish that.
Yeah, I think one of the things in order to find good people, you have to find a culture match. So we start with, we understand our culture and we use some culture, culture index, predictive index, or some others out there to match. We're looking for people who fit both the role we want to put them in and the culture we have today. So you can have great people who maybe don't quite fit in your culture, and it's not going to work out. So the first thing is we are looking for people with certain skill sets. We are from the Office of CFO, so most of us are accounting background. We have some attorneys, but most accounting background. We need to understand, debits and credits to be able to read a balance sheet and income statement, right? And so we're looking for a certain skill set. We're also looking for a connection. What works for us and what we do for our clients, we also do recruiting for our clients, is we're looking for where we can almost always try to get a second or third degree referral or warm information, right? So, and then once we have the right skill set, we talk to somebody who knows them, who's worked with them, then we do the culture index to see if, hey, they're going to be a fit. And then we do a series of interviews based on not really a job description, but a success profile. We follow, what's his name? Barry Shamus, Hiring 3.0. If you guys have read that book, it's a short book, but he talks about creating a success profile, not a job description. And with that, we send through our interviews, then we huddle back up as a team and decide, okay, does this person, fit the skill set, fit the role? Have we talked to people who've worked with them? Because I don't really, if you call and get references today, you get, they started on the 18th, they worked until the 22nd, right? And we paid them this much. You don't get much information. So you want to move around that traditional referral or reference and get to a referral. So, and then we bring them on board and we spend a lot of time up front. We don't, because our staff are lathes, our machines, right? They go right to work and they start producing product. We spend a lot of time up front with bringing them deep into our culture. They don't go billing right away. They get the job shadow. They spend a lot of time with me or the president of our company going through a deck about who we are as Turning Point, what our values are and how we treat each other, how we treat other consultants in our space, because we interact with other people like clients, and how we treat our clients, right? And so for us, it's a slow start to make sure they don't hit the ground running. And we also are very particular about how we practice our craft. There are lots of ways to do inventory reconciliation and how to report that to a lender or to a client. We do it our way. There might be other ways and they might work just fine, but we know our way works. And so we spend a lot of time making sure that they get to know who we are, what we do, and how we do it before we say release, right? And then even release, we have these new hire buddies, right? Where your buddy is checking in with you. It's not your boss. It's not where somebody you're going to be intimidated with. It's somebody in the business who's in your role, who is like peer to peer. How to go today? What do you need? Do you have any questions? That makes sense. So we're keeping, they're certainly doing check-ins with their boss, but we're using our peer system to make sure they're comfortable to ask any questions they might otherwise be afraid to ask.
Right. Yeah. And so with this process that you have, you weren't always this size, right? You weren't always at 40 or 50 employees, right? Has this evolved over time? Was this like this process emerged organically, or was this a choice you made at a certain point where, things started breaking?
Hey, Sean, it's a good question. So I've been doing this for 30 years. 18 of those years of myself and 6 to 8 people. Well, we get hired. Turning Point gets hired when things aren't going well, right? We're not interim staffing. Nobody hires us to come in and close the books while their controller or the CFO's on maternity leave, right? They hire us when things are going well. So we call ourselves door kickers, right? We came in, we kicked down doors, we fixed things, and we left in the heat of the night, right? And left it for someone else to keep it going for 18 years. And during that time, we had a great staff, but some of them turned over, got new ones. But our really best staff was like, hey, there's no career path, and you're it. So in 2018, they sat down with me more or less. It's like, this is kind of a story, but it's more or less happened, where they said, hey, Chaffee, we want to grow this thing. What do you want to do? And so we came up with a plan to grow it. And so we spent a lot of time thinking about, how do we grow the business? How do we hire people? How do we get them ingrained into the business? How do we teach them our tools? How do we be flexible to learn from them if our tools can get better and create success? And so we spent 3 or 4 months writing out our strategic plan for growth, and that included the process for onboarding people.
So taking that step of sitting down and saying, all right, look, we need to spend bandwidth on doing this. Like, what really drove you there? What was the final straw
to grow the business?
Yeah.
After 18 years of kicking down doors, my feet were tired. I was like, okay, I should let the younger folks do this. But also, I really cared a lot about the staff that we had, and I didn't want to see them go, because that means it was going to get really hard for me again. And I really wanted them to have an opportunity to do a lot of the work that I did today. At that time, I got to do all the fun stuff. They did all the other stuff, right? And they're very talented. So part of it was just respect for the people who've been with me that long. Part of it was for me to say, hey, can I really be a CEO, not a consultant? That was the decision. And honestly, in 2019, it was awkward for me. I come to work every day like, what do I do now? Because I wasn't supposed to call the clients and solve their problems and call the banks and negotiate with them, right? 2019 was tough for me personally, but they were loving it. And by 2020, I was really feeling comfortable in the role and learning and growing as a leader. Obviously, the pandemic set us up, turbulence for about 8 months in the business. But as we came back out the other side of that, it's just been nothing but growth and opportunity.
It's amazing. So, being, you have, an agency model, a services model, and there can oftentimes be a chicken or the egg moment. Does the revenue come first, or does the bandwidth come first in order to enable you to do the great work? Like, was there fear around that? If we start hiring, introducing overhead, how are we going to pay for these? Is the growth going to be there to support this?
So, good question. It's terrifying. I don't believe in contractors for our business, because contractors we have hyper specialization. So we have analysts who do nothing but spreadsheet work, budgets, forecast, cost accounting, analysis.
Right.
We have data visualization people who do nothing but Power BI to visualize data. We have controllers that close the books and give us financial statements. We have CFOs and restructuring specialists who take that information and create the opportunity for tomorrow for our clients, right? And so when you have contractors, they kind of want to do all of it, because this gig is, they get X% of the billable dollar per hour. We end up having a CFO stepping down and doing difficult spreadsheet work, or a spreadsheet person stepping up and trying to play CFOs and negotiate with the bank. It doesn't work. So all my people are on salary. So you're right. When we grow, it's about 90 days from a new hire to where they're really cranking and producing positive cash flow, right? And the first 45 days are probably no cash flow, the way we do our model. So it was when we came up with a plan to hire 2, pause, hire 3, pause, right? At the time, there was an untapped need in the Seattle space for what we do. And we turned down clients all the time when it was just 10 of us. So we had, for the first 3 years, we we could grow as fast as we wanted. I think today we're at the N+1 revenue dollars a little harder. We have to work harder for it. But you're right. We had to carefully navigate. We're making payroll every 15 days and getting paid 32 days, 36 days DSO from our customers.
Right. Yeah. It's tough. It's really hard to navigate for any agency. Luckily, you guys have the skill set of being able to look at that kind of financial data and put together a plan. But that probably doesn't make it any less scary.
It was especially for me. Everyone else is out heads down, billing clients and doing good work. We made some missteps. We were growing so fast. We were hiring some months 4 people, 5 people a month, and that's where we came up with the new hire buddy system, because the managers had no time to care and feed these new people. Sometimes they were sitting there with nothing to do. The second thing is I hired an HR person who was great at what they do, but most of the time with the new hire buddy system, the HR person wasn't, everybody called them like people and culture, didn't have enough to do. So that was a lot of overhead that we engaged in that we ended up removing and going back to more of a technical HR resource as opposed to somebody who's holding the hands of the staff.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting system. I like that. So talking about, your company's growth and going from this really small team to a much larger team. I mean, those are 2 very different environments. How has that client growth channels either stayed the same or changed over that time?
How, the client acquisition piece?
Yeah. Where are they coming from? Is it all referrals? Has that changed?
100% referrals. We get our clients from middle market lenders, both commercial and alternative lenders, from attorneys who represent middle market lenders, and from CPAs in the middle market. That's where all of our work is from. We are currently launching a B2B. We're working on how to go B2B. But, we close 84% of all referrals we get because they come to us hot. It's going to be interesting when we start doing B2B where it closes like 8% or something.
Yeah, that's going to be a very different model.
Yeah. But I think it's time for us to do that. We have a great store. We have a lot of talented people on the team. So I'm looking forward to using the tools between LinkedIn and we use HubSpot as our CRM to be able to reach directly out to C-level executives at our client, potential client base.
Yeah. So with the referrals, to get referrals, one must build up trusted relationships. So how did you actually build up those relationships in the first place of the people that are sending you those referrals?
Been in the market a long time. Personally, today I get almost no referrals on my leadership team. I handed everybody off starting in 2019. And it was really awkward. There were a bunch of accountants. They didn't know what to do with these people at first, but today they own it. They each of them, we track in HubSpot. We call our power of 20. Now everybody has hundreds or thousands of connections in HubSpot, right? But we have recognized each of our principals and partners have a power of 20 that they get pinged on to do certain things. So every week we have things we have to do to keep those relationships close to us. So, and then we also joined RMA, which is a bankers association. We joined TMA, Turnaround Management Association. We're in ACG. So a lot of it is just networking and conferences and, hand-holding of the people who can give us work. And also, most importantly, what we talk a lot about is not asking what we can get, but what can we give? Right? So we're constantly trying to be the firm in Seattle that gives more leads to other people than anybody else. We're constantly looking for where can we send a lead to this banker or to this insurance person or this CPA person or that attorney. If we give it out as our lead, we always get more back.
Right. That's amazing. Yeah, that's very just a fundamental rule of business, regardless of your industry, right? And it sounds like, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you don't have a sales team.
No, we did have like a BD manager for a while who, which that person was really trying to help our partners and principals learn how to be networkers and expand their network and how to do that. They were all, didn't know, none of us. Come as accountants, it's not natural.
You love a good spreadsheet.
Yeah, right. We love a good spreadsheet, and it needs to balance, right? Yeah, but that person decided to launch their own debt advisory firm, and we were pretty stressed about how that happened. But it turns out that we're doing great without it. So we just really rely on HubSpot to send us reminders, the things we have to do to keep the network warm and alive.
Right. So it's interesting because there's always a debate of, is it easier to teach a salesperson the basics of the technical stuff that they're selling, or is it easier to teach the technical person the basics of sales and networking? And,
Right.
it sounds like you've gone that second route, that,
Yes.
just understanding basic human interaction and how value exchanges hands. And that seems to be working.
Yeah, we teach them first, just develop relationships. Don't ask for anything. Don't do anything. Give away, have
Yep.
coffee, have tea. Ask them about their kids. Don't ask them about client.
Right.
Ask them about their kids, where they're on vacation. Take notes. Remember that stuff. And then we also recorded with a company called Victory Selling, recorded a series of about 8 hours of videos on how to go from that relationship to asking for an order or asking for a referral. And we make it very easy for them. Accountants are technical. They like step-by-step processes.
Yep.
So we make a step-by-step process, and they have to study these and then, answer inquiry. For me, like, okay, we're going to we make them role play, which again, accountants don't like to act. You don't see many on stage. But we make it a lot of fun is we role play with them a lot on how to ask for the order.
Right. That's amazing. So, I mean, what I'm gathering from this is, you've invested pretty significantly in terms of internal resources and tooling to help this company grow. I mean,
Yes.
it's the fact that you're talking about it. You recorded your own training, session, which is something you hear a lot about when you have a few hundred employees, but
Right.
not so much when you have 40, right?
Right.
And why is that? Does this come back to the whole, your feet were tired and you need to give people the ability to do it on their own? Like, what gave you the insight that you need to invest this much in internal resources?
I wanted to speed up the learning. I learned all those skills over 18 years of getting it wrong lots of times. And so I wanted to speed up the learning. So we have 3 sets of recordings that we do. We have this onboarding training. We use a learning program that manages their progress, and we created videos for everything we do, and they have to watch the videos and answer questions, right? We did that. We have the victory selling training, and then we have what we call the director's playbook. Director's a general title for a manager in our business, and teaching them the soft skills to be a manager. The journey from high individual contributor, which most of our consultants are, to effective leader is very painful, right? We have to let go of the quality of the work and hope that the person working for us does the same, does it at that quality. We have to trust that they're going to get it done right on time and on budget. We have to trust that they're not going to say something that upsets our client. So we have a whole process that tries to make the journey from high individual contributor to effective leader less painful. And it's always painful,
Right.
But less painful.
Yep. Yeah. Nothing has to be perfect, but it just, can you make it better?
Right.
No, that's great. Now, shifting topics just a little bit. One of the things that comes up with a lot of our clients, which I know is something in your realm, is, making decisions as you're growing rapidly. I imagine a lot of clients you work with are in high growth periods, and you're having to make decisions every single day about how to steer your business from a strategic point of view. And, part of that is choosing, where do I invest more budget? Where do I invest less? Where do I invest more headcount? Where do I invest less? Can you talk about how you approach that and that conversation with clients?
With clients.
Yes.
We create a framework for making decisions at our clients. We use it at Turning Point as well. That's one. We have this strategic framework for how you encapsulate the decisions you're going to make, and how you get the data, the decisions you're going to make to drive your business to where you want to go. That's one. And the second thing is we try to remove the CEO as a sole decision maker. Now, ultimately, it is the CEO's responsibility for success and failure, right? Mm-hmm. But we try to say, don't make decisions in isolation. Use your management team as your board of directors, right? Mm-hmm. I sit on lots of boards over the years, and I would have these paid board members come in, and because they're getting paid, they feel like they have to say something intelligent. And most of the time, it was not meaningful to the company we were sitting on the board for.
Right.
But I would watch the management team and come in and present to the board, and they were always brilliant, right? And mostly always brilliant. And so what I've demised is that we should lean into our management team as your board on a quarterly basis to help us make decisions for the strategic direction, and even on a daily basis. Don't make decisions, like your Elon Musk is the sole guy at the top who can only make the decisions and gets all the glory, right? Share it and help your team, bring your team along to make the decisions.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And how do you put, one of the things we were talking about before too is about financial data and making it real time. And that's a topic that has come up before in this podcast and in a lot of internal client conversations. I mean, I'm sure that's a big topic, but how do you approach financial data in a more usable format?
I started talking about dashboarding in 1999. I think I wrote my first article in 1999 about the power of dashboarding when it was cubes and ugly and there was no tools to do it. Now today, you've got a very inexpensive program called Power BI that has the ability to do everything a middle market company needs to do. And even larger companies can use it, or they can slip into Tableau. I actually believe data analytics in a dashboard format that is more important than your financial statements. Now, you got to have financial statements. You got to true them up. Right. Your bankers want them. Your stakeholders need them. You need to use them to confirm that what your information you're getting on your daily, weekly dashboards is accurate. But dashboarding is the most important source of information you can have in a business. And it's gotten so much simpler than it was, 15, 20 years ago.
Right. Yeah. No, they've become a lot more powerful. It's, Power BI, love it. ThoughtSpot, we use that a lot as well. And it's phenomenal. And yet there's still so many businesses I come across that don't have that in place. I wonder if you have thoughts on why that is. Why isn't this just as common as, QuickBooks? Like, why doesn't everybody have it already?
It sure should be. We just did a presentation at the Vistage Executive Summit talking about how it needs to be in every business and giving examples. I think that for most people, it's hard for them to figure out how do you get this data. One of the problems you have when you build dashboards is your sales order, how you sell it to your customer, that data might not look the same as the way in which you capture the materials or the payroll if you're a service business, and it might not look the same as the vendor's SKU, right? So connecting the dots to your data is actually the hard part. So for a lot of people, they really don't understand how to connect that data, and so it doesn't go anywhere. The second thing is a lot of people use dashboards to say what happened. Right? We got a debit and we got a credit. That's what happened. And we're going to track revenue and gross margin and, payroll costs and, returns, defects, whatever, right? But it's all stuff that's happened. And really what you want to have happen is you want to collect those things before they become debits and credits. So you can not just be, read what happened, but you can shape the future. I can see the future and I have time to change it. So for companies today, they should be capturing this data. If you're a QuickBooks person, there's great dashboard tools. Now, what will happen is you'll have to change how you capture your data in QuickBooks in order to make connections between the separate data so the dashboard can bring inferences you wouldn't get if you're just looking at your financial statement. But you can do that, and everybody should do that. But you're right, it hasn't really taken fire in the lower middle market. If you're under $50 million, I think less than 10% of the companies are doing meaningful dashboards.
Yeah. I believe that. That's consistent with my experience for sure. And it is wild because a lot of that data does exist, right? Like we're all generating so much data any given day. It's just not connected, to your point, and it's not interpreted right. And there's a big difference between, looking at data as a post-mortem versus being able to confidently forecast based on it and scenario plan and pivot on a dime.
That's right.
So going back to something you said earlier, which is, to date, a lot of your client acquisition it's driven by one-to-one relationships and referrals and nurturing those over a long time, providing a lot of value, giving more value than you're asking for, and being honestly just like a good human to work with, which that's kind of my takeaway. But one of the things that you've been laying the foundation for shifting to is going direct B2B, going directly to businesses and growing that up. And that's going to make a number of changes. Can you talk a little bit about what's the groundwork you're laying there? What are you starting to do there?
Yes, I can. We've been thinking a lot about it because all of us are getting 10, 20, 30 emails a day in your inbox. Hey, Alan, I was thinking about you, right?
Yep.
Hey, just checking in. Did you get my last 42 emails? Take me off the list. So I've been thinking like, I don't want to spam people,
Yeah.
but we need to go B2B and expand our network beyond the centers of influence, the COIs that we use today.
Mm-hmm.
And so our current plan, subject to it working, is to use LinkedIn 1 degree, so one or two separations, first degree, second degree on LinkedIn from our leadership team, with the target type of client we want. So in Sales Navigator, you can pull that information really simple. And then using Zoom Info type of program to connect with those C-level executives. Super simple. Just ask them to connect.
Yep.
If they connect, then whatever the 1 or 2 degree separation you are from them, to try to email those people. So this is labor intensive. So easy to do the LinkedIn Zoom Info campaign. That takes no effort.
Right.
The next level of effort for those that connect, looking for that warm referral, asking for that, hey, can we use your name? Can you give us a referral?
Yep.
So our idea is to be mixed mode between the spam that we're getting today in all of our inboxes, which is a waste of everybody's time and effort. And it supposedly works. It's hard to imagine, right?
Yep.
But to go in between. So we're not waiting for a center of influence to have a client who's got a problem that we can solve, but we're reaching out and asking for that warm referral in to start a conversation. So that's our plan. So we've mapped out the plan. Now we're looking for the resources to put it in place.
Right. So that's, from what I understand from this conversation, you have one method, which is you can scale what you're doing just through more great people that are in, they're heads down doing the work, building the relationships. And that's tried and true. It's already working. It will probably continue to work.
Yes.
But to accelerate and, build up that like high leverage type activity, you're trying to take an approach where you take what is working, which is one-to-one relationships, and how do you scale that up a bit? How do you introduce some outreach to it to just make it more systematic, I guess?
Yeah, to expand our reach beyond COIs, direct to C-level executives at our target clients, but not to spam them.
Right.
So if they connect, as you can buy their email and their cell phone, right? As soon as they connect, you can buy it beforehand, but we would buy those. We would then do a warm outreach, hopefully using the connection that we have in common as a slight or low referral source.
Right. Do you imagine this being that part operated by, the individuals within the company that are building those relationships, or is that where you start to centralize?
No, we will do it in the name of the person that has the connection.
Yep.
So we have 5 other people in the business who are principals or partners, who these would be coming from them.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, this sounds like we're going to have to do a follow-up episode in 6 to 12 months to check in and see how it's going.
Right. I think it is actually a fairly low cost way to try it.
Yeah.
Low effort, low cost. And if nothing else, we'll expand our reach within LinkedIn and people who would potentially see our newsletters and read our updates in LinkedIn. And if it works really well, then a chance to pick up some clients we wouldn't have otherwise got.
Yeah, no, exactly. And when for these types of things, you're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars that you need to justify this. You can probably get one client and it's profitable from, the amount it takes to actually operate this program.
That's exactly right.
So, no, that's great. And then we'll definitely want to see how that goes. Do you guys do all the other stuff that a lot of agencies do? Have a newsletter, you're putting out content on LinkedIn, all that kind of thing? Or have you avoided those?
No, we do that. We're on LinkedIn every day. All the partners record, 20 to 40 second videos with a topic in mind. We are posting surveys. We're forwarding content. We're writing content on LinkedIn something like that, some subset of those every single day. We have 2 newsletters that go out. We have a CFO, it's called CFO Excellence newsletter, that is content generally written by me, but some of our other partners are writing content. Some other pieces of content that we take, and that we found that there are quality pieces that we think our clients and our referral sources should read. So we send that out. Then, excuse me, we have another newsletter that goes out from our executive search team when they have 3 things. They have content to share, how to hire great people, that kind of thing. When we have high level new placement opportunities, and when we've had success, we made a nice placement. So those are the newsletters that we use. And we have about 8,000 people total that are getting our newsletters.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. That's awesome. And that, I think that comes back, that speaks well to what you were saying earlier about building up a culture. There's a lot of businesses we've worked with that getting the team to help produce that content can be in like pulling teeth. It can be very difficult, right? But because of the culture and the way you've set it up, that people are managing their own relationships, it seems like people understand a little bit more the power, the value that there is in creating all this content.
What the secret for me to getting accountants to take a couple hours and write 800 word piece or 400 word pieces, listening intently to what they're passionate about. They've got a client challenge and they had a success, or they have an opinion about something. I keep notes, and then I once a month I figure out who might do the next piece, and I call them up and engage in a conversation about this passion that they had, and then ask them to go away and write it. And then we have a great in-house editor. So one of the things we've taken away is the need to be really good at your editing, get your ideas down, and then we have a great in-house editor who takes their ideas and makes them, ready for prime time.
Right.
So we take the pressure off of trying to write, a perfect piece.
Yep. Yeah, we don't need you to be Shakespeare. We need you to be an expert in what you're an expert in, and that's it.
Right.
That's exactly amazing. Right. That's really great. Well, yeah, this has been amazing. I think there's been a lot of value in this conversation so far, especially, for people that are trying to grow with that services model. There's so much good stuff in here. There's as we kind of wind this down, there's 2 things that I always ask. The first one being, are you using AI at all in your day-to-day, or is any of your team using AI?
We are. I think there's a lot more to do. I'm sure everyone says that to that answer. But mainly for now, it's a research tool and a copy edit tool. We have to write lots of memos for things, expertise kind of memos. And so we use ChatGPT to do our research. We can't use it, of course. We have a whole set of rules around not using ChatGPT for output.
Right.
Because of all the reasons that everyone knows, it can't be used for that. And I've seen it happen a couple times on our staff, and we're quick to move on that. Because it writes in a method. I know these people well. When they write something, I know they wrote it. When it looks like ChatGPT wrote it, I know that, right? You would know that. But it's a great research tool. And then there's also, if you've got a piece, and you say you're going to give an opinion to a client on a topic, then we say, hey, put it in and let it copy edit.
Right.
For you. And so that's where we're using it now. We've also been playing with using it to do narratives on financial results. It's pretty good. We can't use what it finishes, but what I like about it is it brings a different perspective than what we would have traditionally written. Well, every client gets a narrative from us every month. And so we're now saying, hey, drop into financials into perspective. We're using perspective versus ChatGPT. And it does a pretty good job of doing the analytics. And then we drop in the intelligence underneath that.
Right. For these types of things, I always equate it to like always available intellectual sparring partner.
Right. I love that. That's great.
That's a great use case, and I think that is a common theme too. Is we're not gonna publish exactly what it says, but it solves that blank page problem. It gives you alternative ideas. There's I think a lot of value even just in that. And it's only going to get better.
It's only going to get better. I'll share something that we're talking a lot about is in today's world, everybody's accounting system, and nobody's doing manual books anymore, right? Not for the last 25 years.
Yeah.
So if I produce an invoice to a customer, I produce it in my accounting system. I then run the invoice to PDF and I may email it to them, or God forbid, we put it in an envelope with lick and stick and send it by, postal service.
Yikes.
If I get an invoice from a customer, I have a customer, $200 million high rise interior construction customer. They got 8 people all day long keying in invoices into their accounting system, right? They're queuing in vendor invoices and attaching them to jobs, right? Manually.
Wow.
Right. But it came out of an accounting system from our vendor going to our accounting system at our client, right? So where AI really has an opportunity to make a difference is teaching it fuzzy logic. So we can OCR in all those invoices, or even better yet, the customer just sends it to us in a flat file. And then it can automatically enter in the data. So that's the next big step for us, is how do we remove the effort and increase the accuracy of information that's come from one system to another using AI.
Right. Yep. Remove the robotic work.
Yeah.
Give the robotic work to the robots.
No one wants to sit and key stuff all day long. That's insane.
That sounds awful. That's where carpal tunnel comes from,
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, and that's a really good answer. And I think one of my theses is that agencies and service models is where a lot of the opportunity is for a lot of this generative AI and what LLMs have enabled. So it's really cool to talk with people like you, figuring out how do we best use this? How do we serve our clients? Like we have a high bar of excellence, a high quality bar, right? You can't just copy and paste something from ChatGPT, but how do we start integrating it? And assuming it's going to get better, I think it was Sam Altman made the statement. It's like, this is the worst version you're ever going to use. So it's only going to get smarter and better. But having those workflows existing and understanding what it can and can't do now is going to give you a much better vantage point to understand how to integrate it in the future.
Correct. Right.
Well, the final thing I like to close out these episodes on is, do you have any recommendations for the audience? Books, podcasts, newsletters, or just anything in your life that, brings you usefulness or joy?
Yeah, you mentioned that we're going to do that. So I was thinking about business books because I'm kind of where my mind spends most of this time. Yep. And from my perspective, I have a series that I think are interesting. And I don't know how many of your listeners are going to be accountants, but there's a book by Brian Maskell. It's dated a little bit, but it's called The Accountant as Change Agent. Mm-hmm. Now, most people would be shocked, right? What, accountant as change agent?
Right.
That can't be true.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But Bob Lutz wrote a book in the early 2000s. It was talking about the car industry, and he said, it's the accountant's fault that the car industry in the U.S. began to fail, because accountants were all about, driving costs down, synchronizing, standardizing, dashboards across all GM models, taking out uniqueness, taking out the sexiness in cars. So when you read Bob Lutz, it's the accountant's fault, right? And your whole career just went in the ditch because that's what we were trying to be. And then you read, wait, there's an opportunity for you to be accountant is changing. It's a great book by Brian Maskell. I think that, there's a chance for it to look at your accounting team, if you're the CEO, and say, hey, how do I get these folks not to be a cost center, but to be an innovative center for improving profitability, right? And for better balance sheet management, better margin control, and shaping the future. And then maybe the other one is a small book that I use a lot. It's by a guy named Jim Canfield, and it's called CEO Tools. And it's a very small book, if I can show it up here, that if you're an early stage growth CEO, everything in there is going to be it for you. So those are my recommendations.
Those are some great recommendations. I'm going to check out both of those. And that's, that's a really interesting concept. I like the accountant as a change agent. Definitely.
Some CEOs where he just spit his coffee out their nose.
Yeah, no, seriously, like just sold a new laptop because they have to replace it now.
I'm like, where is that accountant as change agent? I want to meet them.
Yeah, please. How do I recruit them? Do you have a service for that?
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. Those are great recommendations. And this has been a really awesome conversation. I've really enjoyed this. Do you have any closing words for the audience? Anything you want to share?
Sean, thank you for the opportunity to share our ideas and our thoughts, and thank you for the time.
Absolutely. This has been my pleasure, and I'm sure everybody's going to get a lot of value out of this. So everybody, I hope you enjoy the episode, and remember to, hit like and subscribe. That helps a lot in getting the word out to everybody. So Hope everybody enjoys, and see you again next time.